What's up? How's it going? Welcome to 49ers After Dark on the weekend. While it's light out, I'm Grant Cohn. That's Jessie Naylor. I got to call him in when the news is huge. And this is huge news. We knew something was up with Brandon Aiyuk. It was like the least well-kept secret ever. But we didn't know the details. And now we got a bunch of them on a Friday afternoon / evening, which is what you call a Friday afternoon news dump. I guess that's when the Niners would want it to be dropped, when there's the least scrutiny as little scrutiny as possible. Plus, they got a game coming up in a few days, which they probably will win, which could change things. But for now, it's Brandon Aiyuk time. And here's what we know so far, Jesse. They voided his guarantees during training camp because he didn't fulfill the obligations of his contract, which is supposed to be going to all the meetings or team functions or whatever that actually means. And now it looks like he's going to get released this offseason. Do we know anything else?
No, I think that's what we know factually. That's what's been reported. The rest would be speculation. I had been hearing for about 6 weeks, that he's been healthy and ready to play. This now makes sense why he didn't play. I would assume if the contract was voided in training camp, the reasons he would want to play if he's healthy is that he wants to showcase for the next team. And the reason the 49ers wouldn't want him to play is because they don't want to showcase him for the next team. That's not what they're here to do. And so him time really since the beginning of the year, that makes a lot of sense as well. Why they aren't showing him on TV and press boxes, that all now starts to make a lot of sense. So a lot of this speculation that's been out there, hearsay that's been out there, is really all starting to add up once we get this piece of the puzzle. But those are the factual things. I guess the question is what led to this, right? And I'm curious to know your thoughts. But to me, Grant, like when I look at this team and I look at the injury history that they've had, would you want to rehab with the team? Would you trust this team to rehab you properly and get you back on the field? Or is it possible that maybe BA wouldn't want to do those things? Maybe he wanted to work with his own team, and that was enough for the 49ers to be like, well, you're not here. You're not rehabbing when we need you to. You're not here with our guys. And so we're going to void the contract. And he's like, all right, well, then void it. So to me, I don't know. I don't know again, this is all speculation, but to me, Grant, like that adds up.
There's another piece of information that was reported. What we know, this was reported by ESPN, Nick Wagner, and he said that the 49ers were going to trade Brandon Aiyuk after the 2024 season. They'd made their minds up before he got injured. So that's interesting too. It seems like they either signed him with the intention of flipping him after 1 year, or they had instant buyer's remorse. So to me, like the way this story has been portrayed so far or interpreted is that the Niners really liked Brandon Aiyuk. They gave him every opportunity to earn his contract. He was just so unprofessional that they had no other choice but to void the guarantees. But it seems like if they wanted to trade him before he got hurt, and then they tried to trade him when he was hurt, I mean, they confirmed it. He confirmed it. Then it seems pretty clear that they were going to find a way to get out of this contract and avoid paying him another penny, which they did. I'm not saying he didn't, miss a meeting or give them cause, but they were going to find cause. That's the way I look at it. You're muted.
Again, why even sign him though, Grant? Like that doesn't make any sense, because you had trades on the table. The Steelers were interested. The Patriots were interested. Cleveland was interested. You had offers available to you. So why not just make it happen then? And if Brandon Aiyuk was so happy with the team, why did he last minute be like, I'm just joking, I'll sign the contract? Like none of this, the whole thing makes no sense to me, Grant. The whole thing.
It doesn't make sense. Let me try to guess. It's possible that Kyle Shanahan wanted to keep him. The rest of the team didn't, pretty much. I think we know that.
Okay.
And to get the team on board with keeping Aiyuk, maybe Kyle said, look, like we could trade him after 1 year if it doesn't work out. But if you remember, going into 2024, it was all about man, we were one drive away from winning the Super Bowl. We got to keep this team together at least one more year, and then we'll pay Brock Purdy, and then we'll understand that we'll have to gut this team, but we got to give it one more chance. And maybe they're like, all right, we could tag him, but he won't be happy. So we'll give him an extension. He'll be happy. He'll play ball. We'll make a run, and then we could trade him. Although giving him the extension didn't really seem to be the appeasement they thought it would be. I don't know. That's a theory.
Well, he got injured. I mean, that threw. Right. But see, this is football. Guys get injured all the time. I mean, that's a hell of a calculated risk. The 49ers, how do the 49ers always do this, Grant? How do they always get nothing for their players that have so much value around the league? It doesn't make any sense. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo was the first. They could have traded him for who knows what, probably a first-round pick after 2019, brought in Tom Brady. They decided not to do that because of EPA or whatever reason that they thought that he was as good or ascending or better than Tom Brady at that point. And then even like an offseason or two later, they could have traded him. They hung on to him again after drafting Trey Lance. You didn't get anything for him, essentially. Deebo Samuel, there was a first-round pick on the table from the Jets in that draft before you signed him. You didn't take that offer. You end up trading him for, what did they trade him for this offseason? Was it a fifth? Mm-hmm. A fifth-round pick, right? You traded him for a fifth years later after he didn't produce at the level that was an all-pro level that got him the contract. And then BA, same thing. He has the amazing year. You have offers on the table for a first-round pick. You don't take that because you might want to keep him for 1 year to try to make a run at things. And now you're cutting him for nothing. Like, they just don't get value from their players when the value is there to be had. They have no concept, it seems, of what the rest of the league thinks and how they value their own players.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I said I would trade Aiyuk, and there were reasons I felt that way and reasons why people didn't feel that way. My argument was not that he wasn't worth $30 million a year. It's that the Niners couldn't make that work. They would never feel like they got the return on their investment. They would always feel like they were overpaying for him because they don't throw to him enough, even though he could justify it on another team with another quarterback and another system. And they knew that too. That's why they lowballed him. That's why they offered him what they would, 25. That seemed more reasonable. And then the market dictated that he was worth more. Other teams would pay him more. They gave him the money he deserved, but they didn't want to. And then they instantly regretted it. So is that his fault? I mean, it seemed like they just had instant buyer's remorse. And if you knew, here's what I wanted to say. If you knew that was too much for you and you were never going to get the return on investment, then just trade him. Trade him right then. Because once you overpay him, then you can't trade him. Once he gets hurt, then you can't trade him. Now you're stuck with this contract. Now you're taking dead cap hits. Now you're filing now you're potentially going to have the NFLPA file a grievance, even though Brandon Aiyuk told him not to. I mean, we'll see where this goes.
Okay, well, let's go with your potential theory here of why this happened and why they would assign him to try to make one last run. The reason I wanted them to sign him is because I thought he could be a part of the future core. That's the way it made sense. If you're signing him for a 1 year deal, essentially, and you're like, all right, he's going to play well, we'll showcase him, we'll make a run at the Super Bowl, and then after that, we'll get rid of him. One, that's a very poorly calculated risk, again, because we talked about the injuries. But even leading up to that point, Grant, the initial conversations started as soon as the season ended. This is according to Brandon Aiyuk when he was on the pivot. He was content with, like, what was it, 27 million, 28 million, or even, it might have been even less at that point because Amon-Ra hadn't been signed, Waddle hadn't been signed, a bunch of guys hadn't been signed yet. So the 49ers clearly had a number in mind that they were uncomfortable with. Once it reaches that point, you have to stick to your guns, and then that's when you trade him. Like, okay, well, 30 clearly they weren't comfortable with, so trade him now, get the draft pick, move on from it, versus, okay, you know what, he's not worth 30, we don't think he's worth 30, but we're going to try to rent him for 1 year and be smarter than everybody else, then we'll trade him. Why? You had bird in hand. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, that's organizational malpractice if that was the case. Again, this is a lot of speculation, but we do know factually they had a number they were comfortable with, and that number continued to grow because they slow played the wide receiver market for no reason. They ballooned up. They basically competed against themselves to balloon up his contract for a guy that they ultimately didn't want. And that was clear from the very beginning.
Yeah, it just seemed like they had a line they wouldn't cross. They crossed it. They regretted crossing it. And then they've done all this stuff to sort of undo that decision they made. And now that it's pretty much undone, they're just sort of framing it as, well, we really liked Brandon and we wanted this to work and we entered this in good faith, but he just wasn't the pro we thought he was. And, I can't speak to his professionalism. I don't know how he acts in
No
meetings
idea.
or if he's there. I don't know. But I feel like this is not what that's not what this is about. This is about getting out of this contract by any means necessary. And we know they've been trying to get out from under it for almost 12 months.
Okay. So then let's look at how this season has played out and try to make sense of that. Because remember early on, there was a report that came out that Brandon Aiyuk is a great team leader. He's in all the meetings. He's helping coach up the young guys. Gosh, what a team player he is. Okay, so was that a media spin by the 49ers? And if he's not that, and you've already avoided the contract, why even go down the media spin route? And then why, for about 5 or 6 weeks, do you act as if he was coming back? Oh, maybe next week. Oh, he's looking better. John Lynch. I see him outside my window. He's looking better. He's not even around the team. He doesn't care. He hasn't been there. Why drag this thing on? None of it makes sense to me. None of it makes sense.
I got theories.
Okay, give me theories.
Why did this drag on so long? Why did they keep saying this? Why did this finally drop now? Well, his replacement is Ricky Pearsall for the time being.
Okay.
And until Ricky Pearsall's on the field, it's tough to cut ties with Brandon Aiyuk and have the fan base understand. But when Ricky comes back and Juwan's back and Kittle's out there, it's easy for the fan base to be like, deuces, Brandon, we never liked you in the first place, which is kind of what's happening right now. So that's one theory. Ricky's back.
Okay.
It's finally time to end the charade with Brandon. What was the other question?
Why put out a report that he was around the team and such a great team leader?
Okay, I like that question
season?
too. Is it possible that the coaching staff and the front office are on different pages here? That the coaching staff wants Brandon Aiyuk. It's not their money. That they actually like him. I mean, I don't know how good of friends Kyle and Brandon are, but Kyle wanted him. Kyle pushed for this contract. Kyle understands how much better Brandon makes the offense, even if he isn't quite worth $30 million a year or whatever. Is it possible they were trying to lobby for him? Like, hey, guys, we know what's happening behind closed doors, what the front office is going to say, the case they're building against Brandon. We just want to put out there, like, we think he's doing really great. We think he's been not only in the meetings, but a leader in the meetings. I mean, adding to the narrative there or changing it. Possible?
I mean, it is possible, but
because
still,
the way I look at this is Kyle got this extension done, and I would guess that Parag got it undone. And this is a shift of power from football people to business people. And remember, I put out that report before the 2024 season. I didn't even know what it meant, but I had a great source saying that the bean counters, the business people in the Niners front office are pissed about these contract extensions, Aiyuk in particular. And there's going to be hell to pay. And look, I mean, no one got fired yet, but look what's happening.
I forgot that you'd put that out. Yeah, that's all come true.
I'm telling you, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, Aiyuk has no chance because there was one guy who advocated for him making that money, and it felt like Kyle backed down. Like, all right, man, if it's me or him, it'll be him. Goodbye, Brandon. I can work this out with Ricky Pearsall.
You know what's interesting is I had a topic last week, and it kind of made sense at the time, but the correlation wasn't necessarily there, and now it makes total sense. So we heard that Cowing is going to come off of IR after the bye week. We still had no idea what was going on with Brandon. When's he coming back? He's week to week. Are they opening the practice window? And the question that I posed at the time was, does Cowing Does the news of Cowan coming back, does that mean that Ayuk is not? And time I was like, oh, they're probably not correlated. Maybe, maybe not. Clearly they were, right? Like they knew that Ayuk wasn't coming back because Cowing hasn't produced either. It's not like he's done a lot. So why even use opening an IR spot on him if Ayuk was coming back?
Yeah, the Niners do stuff like that, right? Niners
Mhm.
activate wide receiver. And it's Jacob Cowing.
Jacob Cowing. Yeah.
All right, let's take some super chats and get back to the show. I'm poor says BA pulled an AB. Well, that's what we're talking about. Did he really? BA interview soon, hopefully. Jewish guy.
Oh,
Siegfried says, hope so.
1,000%. Oh, I get BA is not the type of player to sit on his hands. He will
No, he's gonna go somewhere.
absolutely be doing an interview at some point during this offseason, maybe
Once he's
before
officially off the
airing
team.
his grievances. I guarantee it.
Siegfried says, Chris Olave, you are a Niner. He's rotting in NO. It's a possibility. Jewish guy says, why not trade him at the deadline? Because I don't think he wants to be traded here. To me, that's another part of this. Like, why would Brandon? What's the other thing we know? Brandon
Yeah.
Aiyuk did not challenge the voids in his contract. The Niners voided his guarantees, and he said, "Go for it," which on the surface looks like an admission that he messed up and he knows it and that he can't fight it, which is possible. It's possible that the Niners, again, were the good guys here, and Brandon is just terrible and stupid and all the bad things, or he knows he didn't want to get traded in the first place. They were going to
No.
trade him to New England and Cleveland, and he's like, nah, I don't want you to just send me anywhere. It's possible that he's already made $60 million in his career. It's possible he would rather go somewhere else as a free agent and work it out that way than to get traded to anywhere on this current contract and then possibly get cut from that team.
Yeah, I mean, I understand he probably wants or he does want to choose his next destination. Hello, Washington. Assuming, he wants to play with Jane Daniels, Adam Peters is there. But this is a calculated risk. Like, let's talk about his career for just a second. Brandon Aiyuk is what, 27, 28 years old, coming off of a major injury, just walked away from a ton of guaranteed money. He's not going to get that offer this offseason. Like this is, and this is what's interesting. Somehow in this scenario, I feel like both sides have lost. I feel like the Niners have egg on their face in the way that they've handled it. And I feel like Brandon Aiyuk has egg on his face in the way that he's handled it. And I look at Brandon Aiyuk almost like I did OBJ towards the end, which is like, he's probably going to be a year-to-year hired gun. I don't know that he's ever going to get a multi-year deal. I don't know that that's in the cards for him. If he goes to, let's say, Washington next year, has a good year, maybe he can get a 2-year deal from somewhere else, but now he's closer to 30. I don't know, man. I feel like this is a bad calculation on both sides.
I got one last theory. It's possible Ayuk knows his knee injury is really bad and he's never going to be the player he was before. So if that's the case, go have fun. Go play with your guy in Washington. Go be a year-to-year guy. But, yeah, I mean, you're going to get cut sooner or later. Once you go back out on the field and show that you're not what you used to be, it's a matter of time before you're not playing under that contract anyway. Is that possible?
But if that were true, then why not do whatever the team's asking you to do and set yourself up financially forever? I mean, that's great to have fun, but you're going to forego $50 million so you can have a good time with Jaden Daniels.
He's foregoing $25 million guaranteed next year. And
it's a lot of
he
money.
could say it is a lot, but he could say, maybe I'll get 20 million and I'll recoup most of it for 2026. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but maybe that's what he's thinking.
Yeah, I don't
You sign a 1-year deal, sign a 2-year deal, and you don't lose all of it. And in the meantime, you get to go be happy in an organization that wants you. Is it possible also? We all assume he's going to Washington, obviously.
Yeah.
Is it possible that Adam Peters has been in the background being like, psst, BA, you want to come over here, right? We can't trade for you because that contract, I tried. But I got a scheme. Don't tell anyone, but do this and we'll get you over here. That's called tampering.
That one's sticky. I don't know that Adam Peters would go that deep. That could get him in real hot water. But
absolutely get him in hot water. But it just seems like he knows Brandon very well. Jaden knows Brandon very well. If the Washington Commanders wanted to bring him over there, they could do something. And I'm never going to uncover what it is, but I feel like this stuff happens more often in the NFL than people
Oh,
realize.
for sure. But
Yeah.
here's how he does it. He talks through his quarterback. Hey man, how's
Yep.
BA doing? Hey, tell him
Yep.
Adam says hi. Just little stuff like
Because then
that.
it's
You
not
know what I
even.
mean?
It's not even. Yeah. I
Nope.
like
It's
that.
just let him know that the relationship is still there if he wants it. Hey, tell him
Yep.
Adam says what's up.
I'm just
Hope
saying,
he's
like
doing
he
well.
signed Kinlaw. Uh, he brought in Debo. Like there's 100% chance Brandon Aiyuk's going to the Washington
Jake
Commanders.
Moody. Don't forget about Jake Moody.
Jake Moody. Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for it. And I kind of hope he does well over there. Jewish guy says,
Could be
why not
too.
trade him? Got him. Bill Kennedy says, I want to hear BA side. Bet he makes a stink. Or maybe he just doesn't care and is happy to be gone and go to Washington. Too much sauce says, how does Nick Wagner know so much? Special access. Got a good source.
ESPN.
K-Star says, this situation makes Lynch look even worse. Who wanted to trade Aiyuk to the Steelers but got overruled by Kyle? We don't need a weak GM. Yeah, man. I mean, you can't blame it on Kyle like it's your job. This brother Bob says, what up, G Zizzo and Jay Dizzle? Stop ghosting me, Jess. J Mal Fair says, nice Browns move by the Niners. That's another thing I wanted to say, man. The Niners do this, and the news comes out on a Friday, and everyone just takes their side and says, God, man, Ayuk must be a jerk. Niners are a great organization. It's a good move for the Niners. Dude, if the Bengals had done the same thing, like had some contentious negotiation with T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, and then never repaired their relationship, and then took away his guarantees and released him, everyone would ridicule the Bengals. Oh my God, Bengals did it again. They're so stupid and cheap. Why
Bengals
would
gonna
any player
Bengal.
It's like, and that would be the right thing to say. But the Niners, are the Niners a good organization, or do they just have like good schemes on offense and defense, and the rest of their organization is the same organization that was awful when freaking Jim Tom Sula was here?
I mean,
There's
I
only
will
so
say
much that
that
Kyle and Salah can really do. They can put together a good game plan, but it seems like everything else, from the injuries to the contracts to, it's just amateur hour.
it's interesting how winning somewhat consistently, I guess, can change your perception of everything. I mean, is Jed York really that different? Because all of a sudden he comes across like he's put together. Oh, he knows what he's doing. Oh, well, he's a good owner, right? But when you kind of peel things back, it's like, well, he's kind of the same guy that wasn't a good owner when he made those other hires.
Yeah.
I think at the very least, and this is where Kyle Shanahan does deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah.
At the very least, what you have to say is he's brought up the floor of this organization to make it respectable.
Super
So
true.
even if he was fired this offseason,
Yep.
they would get good candidates because Kyle Shanahan was here for
Because of
so
what he
long.
built. And that's what you probably the biggest hole in my argument to replace Kyle. When I say, look, Kyle's very good, but he's never going to win the championship. So you got to go find someone who can take you over the top. And that, I think that logic checks out for most organizations. But if you take Kyle out, it's still Parag and Jed, and they're not necessarily good at anything. And the last time they tried to do that, because Harbaugh couldn't quite get them over the top, the bottom fell out and they were floundering. So it's too bad that the Niners, the Eddie D Niners, that wouldn't happen to them. They could shoot for the highest standards. But with York, they could very quickly be back in the cellar, because even with Lynch and Shanahan and Salah, like, look at this stuff under the surface that we don't even know about. That's embarrassing. This is embarrassing.